They're going to be president either until they step down or until the Board of Visitors asks them to step down or until they die most of the time. I'm not actually sure if there's a set term for them, but usually it's like most of the historical presidents died in office.
But is it just like always like an ex-professor?
A lot of times. Sometimes they'll ask notable scholars from other places.
Like, I'm not sure. I don't think the current president even went to America.
He was an administrator here then. Yeah. I've had Spanish down here. I had Wittenberg's class down here. I had another class I can't remember. Clearly it wasn't that important. Walking tour of the Wren Building. I apologize to all parents viewing this video. It's very dark.
What society are you part of now?
Huh?
What society are you part of now?
I'm part of the Spotswood Society. We give tours of the Wren Building. We're like the caretaker, sort of. Modern classroom in the Wren Building, home to the theater department when it was first built. And cellar, which is better lit than the blue room.
Please close the door and just deadbolt us all in. Yeah, turn the deadbolt, please.
We're never getting out of here.
Great. Okay, so we are in the cellar. We couldn't go into the classroom. That room actually directly out across from this room we just went into is one of the classrooms here in the Wren Building. I have a lot of fun at the beginning of every fall session when some of the freshmen get nervous about going into that space. They always ask me, how close to the crypt is it? I'm going to be very close to the crypt, and some of them get nervous going down it. It's actually one of the coolest classrooms, I think, here on campus. All our classrooms, the 4 ones that are in the Wren Building, are state-of-the-art. They're smart classrooms. That's one of the largest ones, and then we have 2 up on the 2nd floor that we passed on either end of that hallway we were on, and we have 1 up on the 3rd floor as well. In our religion department, the professors have their offices up on the 3rd floor, so it's a lot of religion classes that happen here in the Wren Building, but not just. Professors from all over campus try to get classes in here. Our students try to take at least 1 class in the Wren Building before they graduate in the 4 years that they're here, and our professors like to try to teach 1 class in the Wren Building once in a while, so they like to be in this building as well, since this is basically the heart of the college. We're talking a lot about 19th century. Before I explain to you about the cellar, I'm going to tell you some of the issues and problems we had in the 19th century on campus. There was an issue of honor, and the students feeling that their honor was sometimes not being honored and that they had to defend themselves. And as part of that also grew out of some pranking that happened in the 19th century. And that was probably our time in history where, college students will be college students, but we probably had some of our worst incidences of pranking in the 19th century. The bell I was telling you about that's on the cupola of the building, in the 19th century got kidnapped by the students and eventually returned to campus. And one of the worst things that happened involved that cannon that I showed you outside the front of the building at the start of our tour. We call that cannon Old Spotswood since it was Governor Spotswood's cannon. Lyon G. Tyler, the president we've been talking about, actually made sure that the cannon was not fireable. So today the students can't fire it. But throughout most of the college's history, while it was there in the 19th century, it was fireable. It got fired a lot. It got moved to different dorms around campus. There's some that actually are closer to the historic area now that don't exist as dorms anymore, and the cannon would be fired from some of those dorms. All sorts of incidents. But the worst incident to Lyon G. Tyler, the president, is when the students got disgusted with the food here on campus, and they loaded a bunch of the food into the cannon and shot it at the president's house and shot out some of his windows. So that is indeed why Old Spotswood got taken out of commission. So we had a lot of problems with things like that here on campus. And this is a space, I've locked us into this space because this is a space that students have historically tried to sneak into. We do know that it was a big deal early in our history. We now have it pretty well sealed up. Ever since my boss's reign here, Louise Kale, if you go into the crypt, there is some graffiti into the crypt. None of it dates from her time period, except I will tell you when she was here, the construction workers in the 1990s and early 2000s, they did a renovation project. The Wren Building was actually closed during that time. They put the updated security systems in and the updated air conditioning systems that we have today. They actually snuck into the crypt and wrote their names and dates, so they were here during this time. But from that point forward, we haven't really had a lot of people actually sneaking into the crypt. But that U.S. President John Tyler, while he was here, snuck into the crypts. There was a big thing that you used to do in the 19th century, was to take a coin, and you were to sneak into the crypts at midnight and put the coin on one of the vaults, and then if you returned the next morning and the coin was still there and it wasn't kidnapped by any of the ghosts or ghoulies in the crypts, you were to take your coin then back to one of the jewelers here in town and have it made into a crypt necklace, so you could show everyone that you were brave enough to actually sneak into the Wren crypt in the middle of the night. So we had issues with students sneaking into the Wren building. We still do, so that's why I wanted to make sure that the space behind us got secured as we went in. I didn't want any of other students trying to sneak behind us and see this space. The space that you're now in, most people do not get to see, except for the people who work in the Wren building. And we're not going to go all the way to the crypt. The crypt will be several rooms beyond us, but again, as I told you, the students who work in the Wren building do get to actually see that space. As we go throughout the cellar, the ceiling is going to get lower. Please be very careful, especially those of you who are tall. And just be very careful because you'll notice there's a lot of electrical equipment surrounding us. Just do not bump into anything. Be very careful. The entire electrical system for the entire historic campus is down here in the cellar. And I wanted to show you the cellar because there were people who lived down here in history. We cannot forget the slaves and servants who worked here for the college. The slaves actually built this building, and the slaves and servants ran this building throughout the 18th century and the 19th century. And the college is starting to recognize that now. For a long time in our history, it was such a bad thing in our history. Looking back as modern people, we look back and sometimes judge the decisions that were made back in history. We now have a project going on called the Lemon Project. It's named after a slave who was named Lemon. And the college is recognizing that, yes, slavery was a part of our history, and denying that they were here and forgetting them is a disservice to them because they helped to make the campus. Like the Indian students who were here, they weren't here by choice, but they built the campus. They made it what it was. And those people who weren't here by choice helped to make the campus that we have today. Unfortunately, we're here in a time period where people are here by choice, and where we have men and women and people of all different backgrounds who choose to come here and who want to be here. But we've got to remember all the people that came before us. As we go throughout this space, think of the slaves who actually lived down in these areas that we might call creepy today by our standards. That room that's the classroom today was the kitchen for the Wren building, the one right out across from here. This space was either like a kitchen preparation room, like a scullery, or possibly the laundry. We know that it had a well. My boss closed that off just in recent time. Up until about 2000, it was a working well. And we know that it had a fireplace. The fireplace was bricked up sometime in the 19th century or possibly even earlier. We're not sure why they bricked it up. As we go throughout the rest of the part of the basement, please watch your head and step.